What's going on, everybody? Nick Whalen, Alex Barutha back with you. It is the Monday edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. We are brought to you by Sling, by Chalkboard, by our friends over at Dabble. Tell you a little bit more about our presenting sponsors as the show rolls along. Alex, as always, a lot to recap from, I would say, a semi-busy weekend in the NBA. Not as busy as usual. Schedule still a little bit reduced with the NBA Cup going on. We, of course, get Knicks Spurs in the final on Tuesday. We got some injuries to talk about. We got some panic meter players to discuss. We'll, of course, hit a bunch of questions from the chat throughout the show. But I want to start with the NBA Cup games on Saturday, specifically Spurs Thunder, man. You and I talked a little bit about it on Sirius XM. OKC just had this air of inevitability. We talked a little bit about the pricing on OKC to win the NBA Cup. It felt maybe even a little bit underpriced, and maybe there was a reason for that because Thunder have their winning streak snapped. They now sit at a measly 24-2 on the season, but really impressive effort, of course, by San Antonio, especially defensively, holding OKC to 41% from the field, coming up with some huge stops late in the game. Overall, though, this was the most fun I've had watching a non-NBA playoff game in a very, very long time.
It was amazing, man. The anticipation of Wembanyama coming in the second quarter, it really changed the whole tone of the game. And they kept saying it on the broadcast, like the confidence of the Spurs team is through the roof. That Wembanyama, that was true. I can kind of get why Mitch Johnson saved him for the second quarter, to kind of give the team a bit of a boost. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. We got a lot of great performances. Wembanyama super impactful, both ends of the court in only 21 minutes, and it was such a good game.
I mean, I usually am hesitant about looking at single game plus minus. He was a plus 21 in 21 minutes. I mean, the impact was incredible. I thought the degree of difficulty on some of those shots late in the game, I mean, just the type of shots that no one else can even get off. It's like when you have Chet Holmgren in your face and you're kind of fumbling the ball as you're going up and still just splashing in a mid-range jumper. The Caruso versus Wembanyama possessions late in the game. Like if you're an NBA sicko, that was amazing. Like that wasn't like, oh, Caruso got switched out onto him. It was, no, we're putting Alex Caruso on Victor Wembanyama.
Well, we saw them do that against Jokic last year, and it's crazy. I mean, Wemby, you mentioned he's a plus 21. He didn't even play like that well.
No.
He had a lot of turnovers. He seemed rusty, but his defensive presence was also huge, and just grabbing rebounds. There were a lot of rebounds that were in theory going to be contested rebounds that OKC will get a lot of times, and Wembanyama is just a foot and a half over everybody else grabbing them. So he changed the whole game. Yeah,
it was jarring still to see OKC, stumble in the clutch. It was not a great night for Jalen Williams. He goes just 5 of 16 from the field. Lou Dort having that game. What was that? The Suns game where he hit like 5 or 6 threes. I feel like that may have been a bad thing. We saw maybe a little too much Lou Dort chucking threes in this game. He went 1 of 6, 1 of 7 overall from the field. But just an incredible game from San Antonio, and smart fouling at the end, by the way, from the Spurs. I kind of hate that rule. Like I wanted to see OKC have a chance to really tie it, but the Spurs pulled that off as well as I can really remember, as far as having like 3 or 4 opportunities to do it, fouling at the perfect time to basically just choke out OKC. I did think Caruso got pushed, by the way, at the end, and he didn't really argue it himself. It was more like the rest of the team. So I think a lot of times the instant reaction can kind of tell you whether or not it was legit. I think a foul could have been called there. We saw worse fouls called in Suns Lakers last night.
Yeah, for sure. The refs don't want to end the game on a foul call. That is one thing that's true. So you can get away with a lot at the end of the game, especially because he doesn't have the ball. Like it's just like, some guy flying in for a rebound, you're moving him out of the way. Refs don't want to call that.
All right, before we talk about some of the big waiver wire ads, some of the injuries to monitor heading into the week, we are brought to you by Sling. Are you tired of paying for live TV you don't watch? With Sling, you get all the live news, sports, and entertainment you want, only when you want it. Get your hands on a 1-day, 3-day, or 7-day pass from Sling, starting at just $4.99. Get over 30 of your favorite channels for the best price. You can stop overpaying for full-time live TV plans. Sling has a pass for any occasion. You got a big game you want to watch tonight, grab a 1-day pass for just $4.99. You want a week of live TV for one low price? Get yourself a 7-day pass. And for all those weekend watchers out there, you can enjoy live sports, news, and entertainment from Friday morning to Sunday night with a 3-day pass. Only Sling lets you watch when you want, so you only pay for what you watch. Get live TV for the day, the week, or the weekend, your choice, all for a great price. Watch live TV on your terms, starting at just $4.99. Sling lets you do that. Use the link below. You can find it in the episode description here on YouTube, or if you're listening in podcast form, just check out that link. Go sign up for Sling TV today. All right, Alex, some injuries to recap. Jalen Suggs, of course, went out over the weekend. Looks like he's going to miss some time. The latest update I saw on Suggs is there's no timetable for this bruised hip.
That's what it seems like, and that he had been playing through it and essentially aggravated it during the cup game. And he was really trying to play through it and did not look like he was going to be able to. And I'm not 100% certain what they're going to do. I think the move, if I was Jamal Mosley, if I was in charge of this Orlando Magic team, I would just start Anthony Black at point guard and then move in like Jace Richardson to shooting guard and just try to get some shooting on the court, because we saw how much of an issue that was in the cup game. I mean, Paolo needs to play better, obviously, but I think if you're like in a deeper league, you should be looking at Jace Richardson.
Yeah, had a couple moments off the bench the other night, splashed in a couple of threes to try to keep Orlando in that. But yeah, I think Anthony Black, if he's still floating out there in a shallower league, he's the obvious one. Right. I want a little more definition though from the Magic, because they're calling this just a bruised hip, and maybe it's a severely bruised hip. I don't know, but like this doesn't seem like an injury that should be multiple weeks. I don't know. Are we maybe that initial commentary on the no timetable? I could see them walking that back a little bit.
Yeah, we've seen some no timetable. Sometimes it means like a week. Sometimes it means like 6 months. I do wonder, maybe it's a bone bruise. You'd think they would say if it's a bone bruise, because if it is that, then it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
But we know Suggs has a history of injuries, and this has been bothering him for a while. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was out like a month.
So we got the news on Zach Edey, I mean, almost a week ago at this point, but we didn't get to talk about it on this show. I'm sure you covered it on Friday with Ken and Shannon. So if you missed that, you could find it archived here on the YouTube channel. But the Grizzlies have only played one game since Edey went down. Jock Landale is kind of the guy we talked about on SXM as being the player to roster, if anybody, in this situation. We'll see more Santi Aldama. We'll see more responsibility, I suppose, for Jaren Jackson, who is just a terrible rebounder. Came out and had 5 rebounds without Zach Edey against Utah the other night. So, given the one game sample now that we have without Edey since he made his initial return, how are you feeling about Landale specifically?
Yeah, Landale, I kind of had him as like more of like a 14-team league guy, because we had seen 15-something games with him as a starter, and it was like 12-5 with some threes. Right. Interesting that they started Jaren Jackson Jr. at center. So they went with they started Aldama, Cedric Howard, Jalen Wells, John Morant. To me, I think it's just going to be Aldama. I think it's going to be like the main boost here. And we also saw like Camp Spencer stayed in the 25-minute zone. He went 6 of 6 shooting. That's not going to continue. So there's some John Morant stuff in here, but to me, Aldama is the guy I would want.
Yeah, played a season high in minutes in the Utah game, which was very competitive. Memphis, I was watching that the other night, and like there were multiple times where I thought Memphis had pulled away to the point where they were going to seal this game up, and somehow ended up blowing it in the fourth quarter. But 36 minutes for Aldama, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. So yeah, in a deeper league, you can add Jock Landale, but I think this is more of an Aldama boost more than anything. Got big news on Evan Mobley for the struggling Cleveland Cavaliers, who lost at home to the Hornets yesterday. They got outscored 8-0 in overtime. They were very lucky just to get that game to overtime, and then just completely did nothing for 5 minutes. Mobley himself, obviously didn't play in that game, had played well in the previous game against Washington. He's been getting his numbers. At the same time, it still feels like we're stuck in like year 3 of a holding pattern. It's a little Adebayo, a little Jaren Jackson-y, and I know he's still so young that we're not closing the book on another leap. But nonetheless, the Cavaliers will now be without him for at least 2 weeks.
I mean, they went ahead and started Dean Wade against the Hornets, and he had a pretty good game. 14 points, some pretty hot shooting, got 8 boards. Only 23 minutes from Jared Allen. Not what you want to see. He's showing basically no ability to step up this year, and he'd been kind of trending downward. One guy that has been playing really well all season, and I think will continue to play really well, is Jalen Tyson, who I would pretty much consider a must-roster player at this point.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jared Allen later when we do our panic meter, guys,
Sure.
because I desperately need Jared Allen to, one, stay healthy, stop injuring his fingers every week, and then actually play well. And it's been a mixed bag, to say the least, so far. But yeah, I mean, Jalen Tyson has now he's played 30 plus minutes in 8 of his last 9, averaging 32 minutes per game in that span, 16 and 8 with about 1.5 steals and blocks combined.
He's just good, man. I mean, some of this too is like DeAndre Hunter has not been stepping up the same way he has before.
Yep.
Tyson is he's a beast in transition. He plays so hard on both ends of the floor. He can hit some spot up threes. That's not 100% his game, but someone that when you watch the Cavs, he immediately jumps off the screen. You're like, there's no way that they can have this guy pull back to like 20 minutes a game.
Rough night, or afternoon, I should say, yesterday for Donovan Mitchell as well. 6 of 24 from the field, 1 of 11 from beyond the arc after going 8 of 15, 7 of 14 the previous 2 games. So if you're wondering, how did the Cavaliers lose to the Charlotte Hornets? That was a big reason why. Anything big for you on the waiver wire this week, Alex? It was more of a quiet week for me.
It was a quiet week, dealing with some injuries, but I didn't feel like there were any great pickups for me. I think, in a lot of leagues, like there's been some Marvin Bagley movement because of Alex Sarr's continued absence. I don't even think he's back at practice yet. Justin Champagnie as well. Like some of the Wizards guys, in shallower leagues, like Cam Spencer still might have been out there, and Najee Marshall, right? Because of AD and Gafford are not healthy, and Derek Lively's out for the year now. So, but overall quieter. Yeah, for me too.
Yeah, Bagley was the big ad in our 15-team staff league. He went for $17. Runner-up was $10. Then Jock Landale was the next highest. After that, we're getting into Bryce McGowan's and Tim Hardaway Jr. Someone finally picked up Mitchell Robinson. I've been thinking about it. I need rebounds, but I don't want to kill my free throw percentage. I know he's not taking that many, but this is a league where the decimals really matter in terms of free throw percentage. But have you picked up Robinson anywhere? Have you reached that level of desperation in rebounds?
No, because to me, there's just going to be streamers who can do the same thing. I mean, he kind of is a streamer.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, he's not a pickup for me, really.
All right, let's take some questions from the chat. But before we do that, we're also brought to you this week by Chalkboard. You can cash in on your NBA picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats. You can win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players get a free pick and a 100% deposit match. You can see why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or you're hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. So stop sitting on the sidelines, get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, available now in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today. Use our promo code ROTONBA. That's ROTONBA. Put that in on Chalkboard. You get a free pick and a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by Dabble. And Dabble is not just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you could connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this basketball season. And starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free just for signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download the Dabble app and start playing. All right, let's go to the chat. Got some great questions stacking up here as usual. And we will start off with Wave Runner Quadruple Zero. He says, pick 2 of the following players in a 9-cat 12-teamer. Says head-to-head. Dylan Brooks, Sadiq Bey, Jeremiah Fears, Bob Carrington, Najee Marshall, Malik Monk, and Justin Champagnie.
I would say this is probably Dylan Brooks and Jeremiah Fears. Bey is interesting because Zion's back, so I don't trust that as much anymore. Yeah, all these guys, I mean, I think there's a reason you're asking this question, which is all these guys feel like they have a level of inconsistency and up and down to their game.
I'm hesitant to say this. I have some interest in Malik Monk because Zach LaVine, went out with an ankle injury yesterday. No update quite yet. Could be nothing, but could also be something that costs him a few games. We may not get an update on that though for another 48 hours. Kings are one of several teams that don't play until later in the week, but they do play Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a 3-game week followed by another 3-game week. If you're in a daily moves league, I would kind of wait that out. And in the event that Levine's not out there, I think Malik Monk becomes a pretty reasonable streamer. I don't have a whole lot of interest in Bub Carrington. I'm with you on Fears. He's the first name who jumped out to me. It is worth noting on Dylan Brooks. One, he might be going to jail after what he did to LeBron last night. Was ejected from that game. Two, like the scoring has sustained. The 3-point shooting to some degree has sustained. He's cooled off in terms of the defensive stats. He's really not giving you anything in terms of rebounds or assists.
Yeah, that's why it's tough. I mean, the assists were never really there. I would love for the steals to come back, because that was really what was, as much as his scoring was providing a boost to his fantasy profile, it was really the fact that he was getting more steals. That was taking him from like, oh, this is like a top 80 guy to like, no, this could be this. He looks like a top 60, top 50 guy.
Yeah. First 12 games, he was at 22 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 46% from the field, and almost 3 threes per game. So I think we knew that was a little too hot. But yeah, the defensive regression especially has been tough. Another player who I have on my panic meter list, I've been panicking since the day the Bucks acquired him. James in the chat says, what should I do with Myles Turner? Bucks are coming off of the biggest win in Nets franchise history. I don't think it was the biggest loss ever for the Bucks, but it was the biggest win ever for the Nets.
That's awesome. I don't know what you do with Myles Turner. I think the last time, I think when you and I were on a podcast, we were talking about the last time Myles Turner had 4 rebounds in a game. I mean, I think November 26th, which is the last time Myles Turner had more than 3 rebounds in a game. Yeah, he has no game, man.
It's like,
he has no
what
game.
If Jaren Jackson was really bad?
Yeah, exactly. What if Jaren Jackson was worse? Because he can't create shots for himself. He's not a good rebounder. And he's lost enough athleticism where the shot blocking really isn't there anymore. And in terms of like, what do? I don't think you drop him unless you're in like a 10-team points league. If you're in a 10-team points league, it's like, you can probably drop him if you really want to. But in most standard leagues, I would try to hold. I don't know who's trading for him in your league.
Hey guys, should I trade Darius Garland for Bam Adebayo?
I would want Bam. I don't know about you, Nick.
Yeah, I guess if you're in a category league, I could see this being I need assists and maybe you need rebounds and more defensive potential. I guess if it's just a 1-to-1, who would I rather have? Definitely Bam.
Yeah, I think like Garland is kind of dealing with his injuries too, and I know he's played a little bit better lately. At the same time, I don't know. Bam's played really well. To me, these guys are, I think at their peaks, these are very similar players in terms of fantasy value.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, maybe there's a 2-week run here with no Mobley where we see more of Garland. To me, the more bankable asset, like who do I think will be better the rest of the season and who will be ultimately safer without sacrificing upside? It's pretty easily Adebayo for me. Will Gillespie still have value once Jalen Green returns, or is this getting close to the end of the line? A very good question.
I think that there's a chance he still has like back end 12 team like that. He turns into the player I can continue to comp him to, even though he's actually, I think, better than TJ McConnell. But from a fantasy perspective, McConnell being a guy that he would play 20 minutes a game, and you're like, I think I can roster this guy in 12-team leagues. I think that's going to be what we're looking at with Gillespie.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it hinges on, one, defensive production. Like Dylan Brooks, he was racking up a ton of steals early in the season. He was also taking like 7 or 8 threes every single night. So I still think like on a per minute basis, he could be the same guy. It's just, is that volume going to be there? Is he going to be giving you, I mean, there was a 8-game stretch where he was giving you 4.5 threes per game. Like that's probably done when Jalen Green is back and Devin Booker's healthy. Like that type of potential is not going to be there. But I also think he's kind of worked his way into the circle of trust as like a winning guy. I don't think they're just going to kick him to the curb in that rotation.
No, I don't think so either, because there are some other guys that they're playing. Like they've been playing Bouye and they've been playing Goodwin. And I think Goodwin's like a good player and everything, but there's a chance that those guys get booted.
Yep.
And then it's Gillespie still playing, 28 minutes a game or something like that.
All right. Good center question here. Jared Allen, Donovan Clingan, or Jay Huff rest of season in an 8-team head-to-head 9-cat?
Wow. Well, the
You
hot
know my
take might
answer.
be that you don't have to roster any of these guys in an 8-team league.
You don't have to roster the NBA blocks leader.
You may actually not have to, but I feel like I have a soft spot for Clingan. Like, I understand that he's unpolished offensively. They keep having him shoot threes, which like really kills his value. Actually, I think this might be Huff. Actually, it's riskier.
Yeah.
But you don't really need a safe play. Like, between these guys, if you're in an 8-team league, like, I don't think you're looking for some safe play. So it'd be between Huff and Clingan for me.
Yeah, I think with this being a category league specifically, like how concerned are you about blocks? That's the question, because J Huff doesn't really give you a whole lot else. Like he'll hit a couple threes. He doesn't really take 2-pointers at this point. So he's not a huge plus in field goal percentage like a lot of centers are, but it's really 100% about the blocks. He has multiple blocks now in 12 straight games. He has at least one block in, I believe, every game since the start of November. Like the consistency is insane. Like I was watching that Philly game the other night, and I don't think he had a single block in the first half. I have him in my lineup, but I'm like, all right, I guess we're just taking a 0 on J Huff. And I look away for 15 minutes and he's got 3 blocks over the span of like 6 minutes of game time. So it's tough for me to fully give up on Jared Allen, just because like, has he played a full week at even close to normal health this season? Like I think he's still kind of like the safest of these in terms of just giving you decent points, great field goal percentage, rebounds, and then occasional decent blocks. I don't know. Like Huff is such a specialist to me that if you really need the blocks, that's where I would go. But I have Jared Allen in our 15-teamer. I'm still holding out hope. Like I'm not trying to trade him. I'm not looking to drop him or anything like that.
Yeah, he's very much a high floor, low ceiling player at this point.
All right. P Dubs says, good afternoon, guys. Is Reed Sheppard a hold? Our weekly Reed Sheppard question.
There's always a weekly Reed Sheppard question. Yeah, I think he's a hold. I mean, he's going to have some up and down. Like there was a stretch. Like some of this too, you have to actually go through the game logs, because Houston is obviously great. They're blowing a lot of teams out. Like they had a 117-98 win over Phoenix. Before that, a 121-95 win over the Kings. They beat the Jazz by 28. So it's like there are going to be some games where Sheppard's not really in there, and then you combine that with the occasional lower usage and bad shooting, and suddenly he looks bad. To me, he's just a hold.
Yeah, he's in that small circle of players that I'd be terrified to trade away, because there will be weeks, there might be a full month later on where that would burn you. Even if he's still kind of like struggling to ingratiate himself with Ime Udoka, like I've seen enough. There have been enough flashes that I certainly would not be dropping him. If you want to trade him, I would listen to. Definitely would not drop him. All right, got offered Mark Williams and Isaiah Hartenstein for Pritchard or Drew. Thoughts?
Pritchard or Drew?
Yeah, if this is either or, I think I would absolutely do that 2 for 1. Is it different if it's Pritchard and Drew?
I would rather have Pritchard and Drew. But if it's Pritchard or Drew, like pick your own.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess I honestly haven't looked at Hartenstein's numbers recently, because I feel like I've never rostered Hartenstein. We never get any questions.
I know.
About
I always
him.
want to have him, and I know it's like Zubac for me.
All right. He's doing exactly what I thought he would be doing. I think you only do this if you need the big man stats, because Mark Williams, like he's going to be in and out of the lineup. That might kind of frustrate you. I assume that's why this person is trying to trade them to you. And I think Pritchard is going to be pretty good. So I would only do this if you need big man stats.
12-team head-to-head points league trade question. James Harden and Jaren Jackson Jr. for Trae Young and Myles Turner.
This has to be, you have to take the Harden and Triple J side, right?
Yeah. Pretty easy for me. I know Jaren Jackson is uninspiring at this point. Still way better than Myles Turner.
By a lot, man. Like Jaren Jackson and Myles Turner are not the same caliber of player. Jaren Jackson's at least like 1 or 2 tiers higher than Turner. And the thing is, Turner is up and kind of always has been a low usage player. Like Jaren Jackson will take 15 to 20 shots in a game. Has he been doing that recently? Not exactly. But like we know that player is in there.
Yeah, this is an interesting one timing wise, because Jackson has played horribly for the last week and a half. Like last 5 games, he's averaging 10 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.6 steals. That's nice, but 42% from the field, and he is 0 for 13 from 3. I wouldn't do like a rage trade here because you're gonna if you're not happy with Jaren Jackson Jr., you're gonna be less happy with Myles Turner. All right, so I would happily take the Harden and Triple J side here. We also have our weekly Jakob Poeltl question: is he a hold in a 9-cat 10-teamer, or excuse me, 12-teamer?
I think so. Yeah. And the reason I say this is we know he can be better, and I think like we're coming off one of the what probably will end up being, besides the All-Star break, the lightest week of NBA games in the whole season.
Yep.
And Pirtle's been dealing with a back issue, and so you figure one of the things he probably needed was some time off. So to me, this is not the time to drop Pirtle. If we're still having this conversation in 2 weeks, then I think that's when we start talking about it.
Yeah, they only have 4 back-to-backs from now until the All-Star break. So, the lack of a true 4-game week for him, it is a hindrance, but it's not that big of a deal. If you assume that he's mostly healthy from now until then, you're just lopping off 4 games. I mean, the production is never exciting, but you're going to get field goal percentage. You're going to get more rebounds than you expect. And, occasionally you'll get 2 steals and 2 blocks. So yeah, he's a hold for me. The overall title of this episode, Alex, is players we are panicking on. Are you panicking if you have Paolo Banchero?
I am not panicking. At the same time, like obviously I wish he looked better.
Yeah. You're not in an overall state of panic?
Not in an overall state of panic over Banchero. I think like they kept saying it on the broadcast that, he needs to work his way back into game shape. And I think that's true because it was a groin injury. Was that what he was? I can't remember now, but
so. That sounds correct. Yes, groin.
You can't get your win back if you have a leg injury like that. The thing is, I just wish that the offensive possession looked better. Like, I think that's more of like what we have to panic about is like when you watch a New York game, it's like he's playing his own game. They're not really getting him in spots that feel advantageous. Like, it doesn't feel like they run plays for him. He just kind of ends up with the ball and tries to do his own thing. And I would not panic on him, but no, it hasn't looked great.
No, there's been really like no progress in any area. Like everything is down across the board, including minutes, and that's slightly a part of it. But he's taking like 2 fewer threes per game. He's shooting way less efficiently on those threes. The free throw percentage has been marginally better, but we're still, in the mid to high 70s. Defensive production hasn't really come around. The assists are down. The rebounds are about the same. It kind of depends on where you drafted him, I guess. I wouldn't panic. And I think the injury kind of gives him an out in some ways. Like the counting stats look better before the injury. I think it's pretty easy to chalk up these last few games just to kind of reintegrating.
Yeah, I think for Paolo, the main issue right now is he just doesn't look good in isolation.
Yeah.
Like before, like last season, it looked like you could give him the ball and he could do whatever. He would get his points. Now he looks a little more uncomfortable. I don't know if that's teams having adjusted to him, if it's a different system, but yeah.
All right, we got to take a quick break for those listening in podcast form. If you're listening on the YouTube channel, this will take like 1 second. All right, we are back. Is Joel Embiid back? Is the next question, Alex. I don't know exactly how to go about answering this. In terms of is he like back on the court? The answer has been yes. He's now played in 3 games in a row. That is a season high. He's basically going to be questionable every single game. I know we mark him as questionable even if they don't list him as such. And the Sixers don't play till Friday. They play a back-to-back at the Knicks Friday, home against the Mavs on Saturday. Obviously, don't expect him to play in both of those games, but pretty easily, I would say probably the 2 best games of the season back-to-back now.
I think so. I want to be able to like give him credit while also acknowledging that like Indiana, having a big game against Indiana is one of the least impactful things you can do as a big man to like prove that you're back. I mean, they are like, I'm not going to dive into how bad the Pacers are on defense.
We could talk some Jeremiah Robinson era.
Yeah, they're terrible. So I think it's good that he is back and played 2 good games.
Yep.
So I think I don't know if this is like an actionable question. Like, is he back? Do I keep him? Is he back enough that I should trade him? To me, he is always a trade candidate. I don't think 2 games is enough for somebody in your league to be like, now I need to get Embiid now.
I don't want to deal with that at all. I think whoever's had Embiid in our staff league the last 2 years has just like instantly been in the tank. Like it's really hard to survive that. Like you still have to draft him or in an auction, pay enough for him that it's kind of a hindrance. I don't, if someone's looking to offload, like if they're just sick of the Embiid experience and you can get him for nothing and you're under like no obligation to even start him every week unless he's completely healthy, then sure. But I would be very surprised if we have this conversation in a month and Joel Embiid has played in like 80% of games and he's looking great. Like we've been kind of through this roller coaster a couple times now. And I think just when it seems like he's about to turn a corner, he usually is not. So look, if you got the last 2 games out of him, great. I would not count on that continuing to be something bankable. All right. Good question here from, do not know how to pronounce that name. So we're going to skip that. Hi, Alex and Nick. I have an IR spot for Trae Young, but I need to drop someone for him. Who should I drop between DiVincenzo, Derrick Queen, and Quentin Grimes?
That's a tough decision. Yeah, I don't know for certain if DiVincenzo has been definitively better than Grimes. Like my gut feeling is like, oh, I would think I would drop Grimes.
Yeah, me too.
But it's pretty close actually.
Well, what comes to mind for me is like I think there is some real smoke with this Coby White to Minnesota rumor. Like Coby White, for whatever reason, has like ruined the Chicago Bulls despite putting up good numbers. The Timberwolves could very clearly use Coby White. Like that feels like a match made in heaven. If I told you, hey, in a month that deal is going to happen, what does that do for DiVincenzo?
I mean, it'd probably kill his assists. I do wonder, like, who are they giving back in that deal?
I know. Like, do you have to give up Terrence Shannon? Does Rob Dillingham and a pick get that done?
Probably Shannon. It's probably just all of your young assets, right? Yeah, and Queen, I mean, the thing about Queen is he's so up and down. Like, he'll have these games where I think last night he didn't play after the middle of the third quarter or something like that. He took 4 shots.
Right.
This is a tough question. Who would I draw?
Yeah. I still think it's probably Grimes for me because we can't assume that trade is going to happen. I don't know. I mean, the highs with Queen are so high that I would hate to give up on that. But we talked about this last week, right? Where it's 33, 10 and 10, 17, 7 and 5. And then the next night in a competitive game that the Pelicans won, he's playing 25 minutes. Like, I don't understand it.
They're still going to be horrible. So like, there's going to be plenty of incentive. Like if you can hold him long-term, I think Queen is going to be good down the stretch, like post deadline March, he could be putting up stupid numbers. And I think Grimes does actually have more upside than DiVincenzo. So that's kind of tough.
Jock Landale or Brandon Clarke, if you're looking for your Zach Edey replacement. Brandon Clarke yet to play this season.
Is it possible that's another Clarke?
That's what I thought.
Jalen Clarke?
He's the only active Clarke with that spelling.
Yeah, you can't be rostering Brandon Clarke.
No. I mean, he had the torn Achilles, and then did he tear his ACL on top of that? There was some sort of knee thing beyond.
He might have done the Klay Thompson. Yes.
Yeah, it's Landale, I think. Not that either of those are super appealing. All right, we have a trade question involving Siakam and Derrick White. Essentially, I think this is who would you rather have in a 16-team category league?
Derrick White.
Yeah.
Not particularly close for me because, again, Indiana's a team that, I mean, they're 6-20. They have their pick. I thought Boston will also be in this position where they might be tanking. Boston will not be tanking. They're 15-10. They look legit. There's pretty much every number says like this is a good team. So I would prefer Derrick White. Yeah,
White's coming off of that terrible game where the entire Celtics team played badly against Milwaukee. But other than that, like his, early on he was shooting like 33% from the field. He's still not shooting 50%, but he's at like 43, 44 over the last 15 games. A lot closer to what we expected. So I would go Derrick White. And we had a kind of a grander conversation about the Pacers on the show last week as far as tanking concerns. And, at what point did they just kind of realize, all right, this idea of competing and, trying to kind of do something without Halliburton just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I would worry a little bit about Siakam specifically later in the season. All right. Hey guys, I traded Kevin Porter Jr. plus Cooper Flagg for Karl Anthony Towns in a 12-team 9-cat league. He's punting field goal percentage and turnovers thought it was a really nice sell high on KPJ, even if Giannis is traded. So do we agree with this?
Yeah, I think this is a fine deal. KPJ is not going to keep shooting the percentage that he's shooting right now. And Flagg has been pretty good. I will say Flagg, compared to earlier in the season, looks great. But if you Cat is such a top tier player that I think it's fine to do this.
All right, we got a good ad drop question here. Should I be dropping Andrew Nembhard or Toumani Camara to pick up Jordan Walsh?
Can't do that.
No, definitely wouldn't drop Nembhard.
Do not drop Nembhard. Like Nembhard, yeah. Kamara, I still wouldn't drop him for Jordan Walsh. That's at least like a little more defensible in my opinion. But Walsh is shooting, 77% over his past 6 games or something, which is not real. He's not a very good offensive player. I mean, he can dunk and he can apparently hit some threes. We'll see if that's actually a thing. But no, don't do that.
Yeah, 15.7 rebounds, 2 steals over the last 6 games. Over his previous 7 games, which were all starts, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 steal. It feels like a short-term hot streak to me. I think the other 2 guys are a lot more bankable. All right, we also have our weekly Yusuf Nurkic question, Alex. Is he a drop in 12-teamers?
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously it's not good that he's that he's resting. As someone I'm rostering him in our 15-teamer. I don't like it. But he is coming off 13, 17, and 7 with 1 steal and 1 block. And there was some stuff earlier, the Will Hardy blew up at the team, and that was a whole thing, right? Don't like that he's resting. At the same time, I think Nurkic is almost like a guaranteed hold until the trade deadline. We'll see what happens this week or next week, but I don't think he's droppable.
I've been offered Pascal Siakam for Denny Avdia in an ESPN 10-team points league. Just a statement.
I would much rather have Avdia.
Yeah. All right, thoughts on another trade here. Devin Booker for Tyler Hero and Keyshawn George. This is a 10-team points league.
I think this is a fair deal.
Yeah.
10-team points league. I guess my question is is Keyshawn George going to be an everyday start in a 10-team points league?
Right.
Probably. And there's
the scoring's been way down lately, but he's still giving you I think he's giving you enough elsewhere that maybe it's not an every week start, depending on what your team looks like, but a very reasonable option.
I would say if you're on the Hero George side of this, or you're thinking about having that side, make sure your team isn't too deep that you would not be utilizing Keyshawn George every week. So if I want the 2 guys in this deal, then it's I gotta make sure Keyshawn George is starting every week, and then I don't have great players on my bench. If that's the case, then I think you can go ahead and do that. I think that 2-for-1 is good.
All right, we got a couple questions about Ryan Kalkbrenner or Kalkbrenner adjacent questions. So first, is Kalkbrenner nothing more than a field goal percentage and block streamer? Hard to see why he's considered a, quote, must roster for a lot of analysts right now, especially with his fluctuating minutes and production. So we'll start there before we get into a trade question involving him.
I don't think he's a must roster player. I don't think he's a must roster player. I think he is good for what you said, which is just if your team needs field goal percentage and blocks, you should roster him. If you don't need those things, he is probably droppable, but maybe more tradable to somebody who does need those things.
I think there's still enough buzz because the way he came out and started the season, people remember him at the college level. There's still I could get my hands on Ryan Kalkbrenner. I would definitely try trading him. You could get something other than dropping him, unless there's somebody on the wire that you just absolutely need to grab. But yeah, it's a little concerning to me, the workload. He's not one of those guys who's in foul trouble every night. He'll have 2 fouls and still play 22 minutes.
Well, no, and some of it too, when you watch a Hornets, if you subject yourself to that sort of a thing, is Diabate looks better than him enough. It's not like they bring Kalkbrenner in and Diabate comes in and it's when's Kalkbrenner coming back in? Sometimes Diabate comes in, it's do not take this guy out.
Right.
So I think that's part of the concern. So yeah.
He's also a second round pick. There's not a we got to make this pick look good obligation.
Right.
Maybe later in the season they try to extend him a little bit more, but I think you said it pretty well with the Diabate comp. So with that in mind, should I take this trade, my Booker and Kalkbrenner, for Amen Thompson, DeAndre Ayton, and Andrew Nembhard?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're probably not starting Kalkbrenner every week, so you're kind of, to me, this question is Booker for Amen, Ayton, and Nembhard, which I would probably do. I think I would do this. Yeah, I would, again, as I always say with every trade, like, make sure you would start these guys every week. All three of those guys. And that, like, by taking this trade, you're not pushing, like, you don't want to be too deep, right? You want 2 streaming spots.
Yeah.
But I think this is a solid trade, like, if this makes sense with what you're looking at on your bench.
So we should have mentioned this at the top, but good question on Kristaps Porzingis. Thoughts on him, whether he is a hold or a drop. So we are kind of back in the mystery. I guess there is a diagnosis now, but still somewhat mysterious. I think it's called POTS, which is an acronym. They're ruling him out for at least a couple of weeks. He's going to undergo further testing. He's ultimately played in 13 games so far. Would you be comfortable dropping him is the question.
I don't think I could. I mean, when he plays, I mean, the thing is, when he was playing, he was still good.
He was really good. Yeah.
Hopefully they can figure something out and he can just get healthier, but I don't think I could drop him. I mean, if you're sort of like frustrated with it, maybe trade him. I'm sure there's someone out there that is not using their IR spot.
Yeah.
That is willing to take the risk, but
my answer is, if you have an IR spot, put him in there. And if somebody else that you obviously need to put in your IR spot comes up, then you make that decision at the time. But if you have a free IR spot, or if you're in a league with multiple, just throw him in there. I mean, there's really no harm. You could trade him. Do you think you could get anything of like real warranted value right now, though? If somebody's paying attention to what's going on,
I would say, like, there's a chance you could get, like, you could probably get like a fringe roster guy. Like, if you traded Porzingis for Kalkbrenner and something else, like, you might be able to do that. And so if you're frustrated with him, I'm sure there's somebody that will take the risk if they give you back a fringe 12 teamer.
All right. So we talked a little Coby White earlier in the show. Are we panicking on Coby White, regardless of whether or not he's traded? So came back in mid-November. He's now played 9 games, seen about 30 minutes. He started, 7 of those 9 games, 22 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, giving you nothing on defense, 43% from the field, 26.9% from 3.
Yeah, I'm not panicking on him. I mean, the 3-point, I mean, the 3-point shooting it's going to get better.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some progression to the mean in terms of his shooting. And I think if he gets traded, maybe he goes back to averaging like 16, 17 points if he does end up in Minnesota. But I think he would do that efficiently. Yeah. He's someone that, lower volume, better efficiency. Like, he can certainly do that. So I would not be panicking on him.
So speaking of Porzingis, I traded Fox and Porzingis for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Tyler Hero in a points league. How did I do?
I think that's like the exact type of trade that we're talking about, which is like, it's kind of a your problem for my problem. You are giving up the better player in Fox to get back a worse player in Hero, I think. I think that's a good deal.
We did address this last week, but we have another Jason Tatum question. I think last week's question was more like, why are people picking up Jason Tatum? This time around, it's, should I be picking up Jason Tatum and stashing him? So have you done this in any of your leagues yet?
Have not done this. I don't have any free IR spots, but I think he should be rostered in most leagues because there's a pretty good chance at least one person in your league is not using their IR spot.
Right.
And I think he should be in that spot.
Again, a guy you could park in there until you absolutely need it. And if you have to end up cutting bait with Jason Tatum and that dream, then maybe so be it. But yeah, if you're not using it and he's sitting out there and you can pick him up for free, I don't see why not. We did talk last week about the idea that this could be could be fool's gold in the sense that if you're playing in a weekly league and the schedule doesn't really line up and he's taken a while to ramp up or they're back-to-backs, like it could be more trouble than it's worth, but it's ultimately a free Jason Tatum. And even if it's a 75% of peak Jason Tatum, that's still, pretty easily a usable player. All right, great trade question here. A star for star deal. Should I trade Jalen Johnson for Tyrese Maxey? Probably. This also feels like one of those deals that I would be afraid to submit because it feels like you're going to make the wrong decision either way.
Maxey has essentially no reason to get worse. Like, there's nobody coming back. You could say, like, well, is Embiid going to take his usage? No, Embiid's going to take other guys' usage. It's not really Maxey's. Like, it's Maxey's team. It's Maxey. He's playing really well. Johnson, I think, is going. Like, I think Jalen Johnson is going to continue to play really well, even when Trae Young is back. Is he going to continue being a top 10 player in fantasy? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. And part of this, if you're in a category league, you could kind of parse out, if there a certain category that this could help you in, but both are so well-rounded that that's really not even that much a part of the calculus. The thing I would use to break the tie, in addition to the big variable of Trae Young coming back, is that Tyrese Maxey does have a much better health track record. Both guys are young.
Sure.
I wouldn't say Jalen Johnson is this like super risky injury prone guy, but a little like Brandon Millery, I guess, where they're probably fluke one-offs, but he's also missed a lot of time. So I think Maxey be a little safer to me.
Yeah, and that's why he slipped in the draft. It was health issues. So,
all right, this may sound reactionary / crazy, but should I drop Myles Turner for Tari Eason?
Yeah. So for context, Eason's missed essentially the past month of games with an oblique injury and is questionable to come back tonight in Denver. This is closer than it should be. I think I would hang on to Turner, but Eason before he got hurt was averaging 12 and 5 with 2 assists, and like he was good. I would hold on to Turner though.
James Harden and Jalen Duren for LeBron James and Alperen Şengün, a potential blockbuster in this league.
Wow. I would rather have Harden and Duren.
I think so too. I mean, LeBron's been fine. Depends, partially. I guess like assist wise, him and Harden kind of cancel out. You're getting a little bit more there with Şengün than you are Duren. Yeah, I think I'd still rather have the Harden side, even with the Clippers being a disaster. I don't think the way out is trading or reducing James Harden's workload.
No, and Duren has not been as active as a player over the past 5 games. As he was earlier in the season, and some of that is like the team is completely healthy. Tobias Harris is back. Jagan Ivey is back. So there's been like a small usage decrease and some subpar rebounding games from Duren, but I'm not using that as like I would not think about trading him because of that.
If you're in a cat league, by the way, LeBron has been terrible as a free throw shooter. I mean, it's still a relatively small sample, but he's shooting like 60%. He's turning it over a ton. So that is something to consider as well. I would take the Harden Duren side. All right. We have a Russell Westbrook question. Westbrook or Kevin Porter Jr. in a points league?
Wow. I think KPJ, but I'm not actually that sure. I think
Russ is just in the perfect situation. It's like, let me get my numbers. I've wanted to play for the Kings forever. Doug Christie weirdly trusts him way too much.
Yeah, I think the question about that is just, is there even going to be a modicum of a market at the deadline for Westbrook? Is there going to be a team that's like, we're not using our second round pick, so we need a backup point guard, maybe? And then he plays 14 minutes a game. I think KPJ is kind of locked into his role.
All right, interesting trade question here. 2 for 2. Yet again, everybody's just looking to get off of Myles Turner here. Yeah, so our question asker says, I was offered to trade Myles Turner and Kyle Kuzma for Josh Hart and Asar Thompson. I instantly want the Hart side of this. Like I would just want to get my hands on easily the best player in the deal.
100%. Asar and Josh Hart. I understand that Asar has not been he has not broke out like we thought he might. he's still pretty good. Like, he's still giving you the steals that you want and the blocks and stuff. Yeah, and the Josh Hart aspect is really the turning piece, like you mentioned.
Yeah, the other three guys are just really similar in terms of, where they could rank in a given week. Myles Turner is hanging on to like borderline top 100 value. Kuzma is probably outside the top 150. He had that that like miracle game against Boston, probably like the best game he's played in years. Other than that, it's been basically the same old Kuzma. And Asar, for as disappointing as he's been, he's still in that like 120-ish range. And then Hart is like 50 spots ahead of all those guys, if not more. So I would almost even throw out like the other guys. You could kind of rearrange the deck chairs. I would just, if you can get Josh Hart for Myles Turner and Kyle Kuzma, I would 100% do that. We had kind of an interesting circumstance with Rudy Gobert in the Timberwolves last game. That was last night against Sacramento. Left the game, I think it was just after halftime with a personal matter. I have not dug into this too much. Have you seen any explanation? I know the Wolves or anybody around the NBA has not put it out there publicly. But essentially the question is, do you think he's back for the next game? Absolutely no idea. No idea. Timberwolves play on Wednesday.
Yep. I've not heard anything. No idea.
Yeah, I don't know. My first thought is like, oh, maybe a birth of a child or something like that. But usually they would specify if that is the case. So I have no idea. All right. I gave Harden for Amen and Emmanuel Quickly in a 12-team 9-cat league early in the season. Most said I won. Later, they said I got fleeced. Now I'm not sure what to think about the trade. What do you think?
This almost sounds like a meme or something. Like they said I won, then they said I got fleeced. No, I think you're okay. You're starting a men every week. You're starting Quickly every week. I understand like these guys are more up and down than you'd want them to be, but if you're wherever you are in your standings, like if you're bottom 3 in your standings or something, I don't think it's because you made this deal,
No, I think that the haters, they're going to say what they want, man. I wouldn't worry about them. A lot of people are saying he won the deal. A lot of people are saying he lost it now. I think this is pretty fair, to be honest. All right. Kawhi and Grimes for Chet and Buzelis.
This is an interesting Kawhi deal.
I know.
We talk a lot of Kawhi deals on this pod.
If I could get off of Kawhi for Chet Holmgren, I think I would do it. As well as Kawhi is playing, he's playing back-to-backs. It's just, do you trust that to continue for the final 2/3 of the season? I don't know that I do.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the Bulls' descent into being terrible might actually end up being good for Buzelis if it continues.
Yeah.
I mean, the Coby White trade would be great for Buzelis.
That'd be fantastic.
If they trade Vooch, it would be amazing for Buzelis. So I think, I think the Chet Buzelis side is probably what I'd want.
All right, we'll end on this. I wanted to save some time to talk about like my panic players. I believe with this question, we have now hit every single player on my list. So great job throwing these names in here because I guess these were some of the obvious ones. Are we panicking on Ben Mathurin, specifically in a 9-cat league?
Yeah, I think well, the thing about Mathurin is he was always going to be this guy, which is he was going to come in and play 30 minutes, score 20 points, and give you almost nothing else.
Right.
And I know his past, I guess you want to go back 5-6 games, right, have not been great. Usage has been down a little bit, but some of that is just matchups. Some of that is just bad night shooting. So I'm not panicked on Mathurin, but if your broader question is like, should I be expecting more from Mathurin compared to his season averages, then I would say no.
Yeah, I mean, it had a brutal matchup with the Wizards last night.
Well,
he only came out with 15 points. No, I put him on the list, not because of that specific game or even the Philly game before that, but almost like on opening night against OKC when the Pacers like played him really tight. He came out with 36 and 11, took like 17 free throws. And I was like, why did I not take more Ben Mathurin? Like, of course, this was going to be the case. He's just going to work his way to the line. He's going to rebound really well. And then he had another big game against Memphis and then got hurt. He's had a couple of those. He had like 24 and 12 against Charlotte shortly after coming back. He had back-to-back 25-plus point games earlier this month. But I think maybe that first game against OKC was such a, like, oh, this is what it'll look like without Halliburton, that it was almost a little fool's gold. But I think you're right on balance. Like, the season long numbers, 15 games, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 45% from the field. He's actually shooting it really well from three. This is probably about what you'd expect, maybe hoping for a slightly bigger jump in rebounds. But despite, coming out of Arizona, he was like one of those, like, could be a big time defender, two-way guy. He could be a fine defender. He's not a steals blocks guy.
No. And he's 93rd per game, 8 cat on the season.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes sense. He's just a scorer. So I'm not panicking on Mathurin.
I will say I would panic less on him than I would Siakam from a shutdown concern perspective.
Right.
If they do go in that direction, like, you got to play somebody. And I don't think Ben Mathurin is going to single-handedly win you too many games. Whereas Siakam definitely raises your floor a bit more night to night. Yeah.
And I will say about Mathurin, like, really one thing that sticks out past 6 games, his free throw attempt rate is half of what it was, like 4 attempts per 75 compared to 8.6 in the prior games. So when he starts getting to the free throw line again, which is one of the best things he does, I think he'll be fine.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Great questions as always in the chat. We always appreciate those. Make sure you like this video on the way out. Make sure you're subscribed to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball channel, and make sure you put in that code YouTube15. Do that over at rotowire.com. 15% off everything we offer. Alex, always enjoy doing this with you, man. We'll be back at it again next Monday.